So thank y'all for being here, and be on your best behavior, because everything you say, they're going to hear. Right? I saw you hit him. I'm just kidding. It's all good. So I'm going to take about 15 minutes of your time to just talk about something that I'm super passionate about. Did anybody already see the video where about voting and when I cussed? Did anybody see that? Okay, well, see, you should watch videos that see me cuss, and then you know that I really do that. So voting is really important to me for a lot of reasons, and I'm not going to go into that now, but what it's really important, I think, is that Texas public school employees, understand how important it is that they vote. And we collectively are the largest employer in the state of Texas, so if public school employees would band together and vote, we could decide everything that happens in Texas politics. And so while I'm not going to spend any time talking about specific candidates or specific people that I want for you to vote for, that's not what I do. I'm here to talk about the importance of voting for public education. That's the career that you have chosen. It's where you are. It's where our kids are. And so I hope that you're as passionate about it as I am, because public school children deserve the best. So I know it's been a while since we've all had Texas government, and so I just kind of want to review what happens in the Texas legislature. So our Texas legislature is made up of two branches. It's made up of the House of Representatives, and it's made up of the Senate. And they together, those two groups of people, determine 92% of what happens with funding for public education. They also dictate all of the testing requirements. They dictate our A through F system. They oversee the commissioner. So the commissioner is appointed by the governor, but the rules that he has to follow about all school things come out of the legislature. They oversee charter schools, and that bullet F, while you may not be a teacher, you are paid like a teacher. You're paid through the Texas, through TEA. And so all of your health care benefits, all of your insurance, all of how much money a district gets, the majority of that is decided in the legislature. And so when we vote for people that support our profession or support our jobs in public education, we have the opportunity to change the landscape of what happens in our district. So this is what the primary ballot looks like. On March 5th, we're voting in the primaries. So if you think about the primaries like athletics, okay? So we view like the NFC and the AFC, right? There's two separate divisions, and they play each other all year long, right? And when they get to the end, the winner of those two divisions start playing in the Super Bowl at the end. Does that make sense? So that's what primaries are. You're going to have a Republican election, you're going to have a Democratic election, and the winners of those two are going to go play each other or face off against each other at a later election. And so the primaries are really important, because that's where we decide who actually is going to be in that final election. And in Kaufman County, most often the race is determined, the winner of the final race is determined by what happens in the primaries. So it's important that we vote in those. So this is a slide that should feel very normal to you. You should understand it. These are from 2019 until 2023, how prices have changed. Can you relate to the gallon of milk going up by that much money? Can you relate to car inflation? So your home utilities have all gone up. We can all relate to this slide in our personal homes, but it also relates to what happens in a school. So when you look at this slide, look at how much a copy paper has gone up, or look how much a school bus now costs compared to what it did in 2019. So all of this inflation that is happening in your house is happening at schools, but the people that control the amount of money that you get and that our schools get is happening in the legislature. So this specifically, the next three charts are really about teacher pay, but I want you to think about your job kind of being on a teacher scale. You work kind of like a teacher, and while these numbers don't equate to your salary, they do equate like in relation. So the red line on this graph is talking about enrollment, or the number of students that attend Texas public schools. We live in Crandall. Do we have a few more kids today than we did in 2019? Just a few, right? We all understand that red line that's going up. But when you look at the amount of spending in constant dollars, so that means adjusting for inflation, the amount of money that we actually spend on students is a lot less than what it was in 2019. This is, again, it's about teacher pay, so I want you to think about your pay. If we were to look at inflation and take things, the rate of inflation and the rate of pay have created this margin of about 50% actually different from where you were being paid in 2019. And again, this slide is about teachers, but it's all going to relate to your profession as well. There is not only are we not paying well, right, but also it's more difficult to find employees. Are there job openings in your departments every year? That's true, and it's true for teachers as well. I tell the story, I went to a university right before Christmas and spoke to a graduating class of a school that normally sends us 5 to 6 teachers every year, and there were 4 kids graduating. They normally send us 5 to 6 graduates a year, and there were only 4 graduating. So like there's a teacher shortage, there's an employee shortage. So all of these things are, a lot of them, determined about what happens in our legislature. So at the end of the legislative session this past year, there was a $33 billion surplus. So let me equate that to what happens in your house. So at your house, every month you have an electric bill, a gas bill, a water bill, a mortgage, and a car payment and an insurance payment, right? And you pay those 7 things, and then whatever is left over at the end of the month, you go to the grocery store or you do your entertainment or whatever. Well, at the end of the day, after Texas paid all of its bills, there was $33 billion left over. Do you want $33 left over at the end of the month? I was very thankful yesterday was payday because about all I had left was $33. But so they did nothing with that $33 billion to help Texas public schools. They did not change even $1 to the basic allotment. So let me give you just a really brief explanation of what the basic allotment is. When a student comes to Crandall ISD and they have no special services, so I've been calling them a plain Jane kid. There's no butter, there's no chives, there's no sour cream, there's no bacon. There is nothing but just a potato, like just a kid, a regular plain Jane kid is worth $6,150. That's how much we get if those kids were to come to school 100% of the days, okay? So if the governor could have said, I'll give you $6,160, that would have been $10 per kid. You multiply that times the 6,400 kids that we have. Like that's how the district gets paid, okay? But they took that $33 billion and he didn't do a single thing. The legislature and the governor did not add a single dollar to Texas public education basic allotment. And for 4 sessions, he kept saying, if you will pass ESA or pass vouchers, then I'll address public education. I use a really strong word here because I feel super passionately about it, but he held our money, our kids, hostage for his agenda of ESAs. Here's a quote straight out of a newspaper on October 12th. He said, I want to make sure that we provide a carrot. So when you think about providing a carrot, what are you doing? You're like dangling it out here. If you do this, then I'll give you this. I want to make sure that we provide a carrot to make sure this legislation gets passed. Once education savings accounts are passed, I will put on the legislative agenda for full funding for public education, including teacher pay raises for teachers across the state. So he said, until you spend public dollars on private schools, I will not give any money to public schools. That's essentially what he said. So what happened in the last legislative session, HB stands for House Bill, and the lower the number, the more important it is to the governor. So House Bill 1 was the single most important thing to our governor, and that's where a lot of the funding is added. And so he said, or he proposed in House Bill 1, or they proposed, I guess, our legislators, that ESA and ESAs, education savings accounts or vouchers, would allow Texas families to get $8,000 to $10,000 per student to send their children to private schools. How much were we getting for our kids in public schools? $6,150. So already off the bat, he said kids who go to private schools are worth $1,108 or $800 more dollars than our kids. I don't see the math in that, right? That's at the bottom. Some kids are worth $10,000. So this was his agenda, and I would just about private schools. They don't have to take STAR. They don't have to take graduate. They don't have graduation requirements. There's not teacher certification requirements. Like they don't play by the same rules, and yet they were going to get more money per kid than what he's willing or our current situation is giving us. I'm a proud Texan. Like, I have Texas flags on the wall at my house. I'm a super proud Texan until I see this slide. And it says that Texas is 47th among 50 states in Texas in public school funding. That's embarrassing. Our kids deserve better. So this is factual, like Crandall information. If we were to lose 5% of our kids to private schools, that equates to $1.9 million of our budget. It equates to a 4% loss in staff salaries, and I would have to fire 9 teachers if we lost just 5% of our kids to vouchers, because the parents get to make $8,000 to $10,000 per kid to send them there. So what I'm saying is public schools under attack by a voucher system, and we need to vote. If we believe in the work that we're doing every day with kids and in the job that we hold for public education, we have to vote for people who believe the same things that we do. So I'm not going to tell you how to vote. What I'm going to ask you to do is to take this PowerPoint that you're going to get, and you're going to get this little QR code, and I want you to go look at whoever you get to vote for, and are they voting for your career? Are they voting for the kids that you serve? That's all I'm asking you to do. So this was what happened in the last legislative session. House Bill 1 was called the Rainey Amendment, and that was the voucher amendment, and it was added on to House Bill 1, the finance bill. And so there was a vote, there was a choice to take the funding bill and remove vouchers from the conversation. That was the vote. Do you want to remove vouchers from the conversation? So if they voted green, the answer was yes. They wanted to take vouchers off of the agenda to be voted on. They didn't want that to go to the governor's desk. If they were red, they voted for vouchers to stay in the system. So you're going to get this. You can look at it more closely about how people voted, but I'm going to show you how the 2 people that most represent our district make up. So House District 4 is Crandall, Kaufman, and a little bit of Henderson County. All of Kaufman County, but a little bit of Henderson. And House District 33 is the Rockwall County, Hunt County group. And both of those representatives in 2023 voted for taking vouchers off the system. So in other words, they voted for public education. In the Senate, it was and in 2019, 21, and 2023, all 3 years when this has been an issue on the table, the representatives from House District 4 and House District 33 have represented public schools well. In the Senate, it's a little bit opposite. They're not voting to remove vouchers, they're voting to add vouchers. It's like kids on a playground, like 2 sides, they just don't always play the same way. And so this was, if they voted for, if your senator voted for, they voted for vouchers or voted for private schools. And so you can see the senator that is in Kaufman County voted for vouchers in the Senate in 2017 and in 2023. So on March 5th, primaries are coming up, and primaries scare people a little bit, because the first thing that they ask you when you walk in the door is, do you want to vote Democrat or do you want to vote Republican? And all of a sudden people's mind go to a presidential election, right? And we all start panicking. Well, I don't even know who the Republican or who the Democratic candidate's going to be. I don't know how I want to vote. I'm not voting. I don't want to commit. So this is facts taken straight off the Texas elections page. So remember when I talked about bracket play? You can't, like NFC teams and AFC teams you can't play in both and have your scores count. You got to pick a bracket that you're going to play in. So on primary election day, they say, do you want to play in the bracket on this side, or do you want to play in the bracket on this side? Do you want to vote Republican or do you want to vote Democrat? That's what they're asking. But it has nothing to do with how you're going to vote in November. There is nobody tracking your vote that says, oh, I voted in this primary in March, I have to vote for that candidate in November. That's not how that works. This is about, the primaries are about bracket play. It's helping who decides who goes to November. That's all it decides. But in Texas, and especially in Kaufman County, it's really decided at that point, because there's generally not opposition. So on March 5th is elections, and then there's another election in May that will determine the winners of the bracket, and then you have the presidential election that happens in November. So hopefully you're registered to vote. If you're not, you have to be 18 and a U.S. citizen. It's too late to vote or to get registered for the primary, but you can get registered for what's happening in May and November. So early voting starts here in this building in the Crandall Combine Community Center, just across the hall starting on March 20th, and it goes through March 1st. So February 20th through March 1st. So if you live anywhere in Kaufman County, you can vote between February and March, February 20th and March 1st at the community center. But if you wait until election day, you have to vote in your precinct. So if you live in Dallas County, we're going to provide the closest Dallas County location and the closest Henderson County location, and we'll provide to us. And so we hope that you'll go vote early, but if you wait until March 5th, there will be an election site here, if this is your precinct, or there'll be one out at the Oasis in Heartland. All right? So as a school district employee, there are some rules that apply when we talk about voting. You didn't hear me mention anyone's name today or endorse a candidate. I can't do that. You won't even see, as the superintendent, I'm not even allowed to do that on my personal time, on my personal devices. So like, you'll never get to ask me who I vote for and have me tell you. I'll have to come up with some really polite answer to say, just go research. Like that's what I'll tell you if you're saying who do you vote for. So you get to go pick, but as a public school employee, here's what we can do. We can provide factual information today. Everything I showed you is public record. You can provide information about the issues and how the candidates have voted. I provided that to you. You can provide information on voting times and locations. You can do that. And you can provide information on how this affects our district or how it affects public education. What you cannot do is use district resources to advocate for a candidate. So let's say you do your research and you find a candidate that you want to support. You cannot use your school district laptop or your school district phone, if we pay for it, to advocate for or against the candidate. You cannot advocate for or against the candidate during district time. So you have your own phone that's not district paid for, but you want to post during your lunchtime. That is not allowable. You have to wait until after your lunch, after you're off. And the other thing is you cannot use the school district email, telephone, text messaging to advocate for or against the candidate. So if you go to your personal computer at your house, but you log on to your Crandall ISD web email, you're in violation. Okay, so you can do all of those things from your personal account on your personal time, but you can't use school district funds to do that. All right, any questions about voting? I have presented this 14 times and no one's had a question yet. So thank you for coming. Thanks for giving up a little bit of your morning. I hope you have a great rest of your day and a long 3-day weekend.